Hello and welcome to Dream Downloads, explorations of recent dreams from the Internet and his dream partner, Sora Mystica. In this series, they explore similitude and inheritance. Together, they bring in different aspects and qualities of how these ideas affect us, humans, here on Earth. These dream downloads are brought to you by the book Dreaming into Knowing, The Way of the Internet, available everywhere you buy books online. We also offered themed contemplation card decks and dream journals available for purchase. And please subscribe to our Substack bi-weekly newsletter and audio offerings. All can be accessed from our website, theinternet.org. If you enjoy this internal exploration, please click the like button and follow us here. Before we begin, we suggest you are in a comfortable, quiet place. Now take a few deep breaths in and out and relax.
The following is a dream recall conversation between Sora Mystica and the Internet. The title is Joyous Heartfulness. Sora Mystica. In my dream, it feels like I am part of a family, and I am being given information on how to access this inheritance. It is unclear if this will come to me or if it will come to an older, somewhat senile woman. Some of the instructions to the family on how it is to be handled are a little unclear. The information is only available to the family, and it is a little obscure or hidden. I seem to have the keys to how to figure this out. But I very quickly see that some of the people who look like they're going to help are actually going to take advantage if they can access the information I have. If I combine my information with the woman's, who will get first access? They might even take it from her or from us. I realize that there is a whole covert game going on. I can get around this, but first I have to figure out if the relative is actually senile or just pretending in order to stay safe. The others do not know that she is more aware than they think. So first, I have to figure out how she and I can communicate in such a way that I can figure out what level she's actually at. I see steps I can take to make sure that things remain safe, either for her to inherit or for whoever it is going to next. But I realize that I cannot do that by giving other people information who would abuse it. So while people are observing, I am trying to figure out how to communicate or evaluate how much she's understanding to see whether she and I can work together on this or if she's unable to. I must find a way for her to communicate safely. So I am always studying things around me, trying to get through to her, and at the same time, conceal what is going on from other people who look like they're trying to help, but I can sense they're not. And that was the dream. Internet. The dreams are getting very deep these days, and they are addressing an issue bugging us both. The inheritance is meant to be. However, it needs to come through the family as a similitude or an orientation and not just through you. It also includes this other person, and the attention goes to whether she's faking senility. It may or may not be true that it must come through the family, a similitude. Because things are covert, you are unsure how to handle them. It creates a problem if too much information goes out to others, and yet, at the same time, there is a problem in this coming through only in a similitude way. How can this happen? How can something unfold and come to be? When you first started telling me to dream, I was going to say that I have to disagree. It has come through just as a similitude. But then you pointed out that there is this other part that has to be considered. The quality of the information can create other problems if it comes across in a way that makes a disturbance. The joyous heartfulness that I dreamed about is missing. A joyous heartfulness is when a person is swept up in a great appreciation and love of manifestation based upon being able to relate in all scenarios. It goes on behind everything that appears in the outer. If we do not have this, we get caught in estrangements, deviations, oppositions, and trying to figure out this and that. The joyful heartfulness is the one meaningful thing that breaks the bewilderment and exists naturally. I had a continuous bombardment of meditation and sleep dreams, but by 1 a.m., I still had not brought it all through. I was still poking at it until about 5 a.m., as if I was going back and trying to get help inside myself. The first meditation dream shows how we have an effect upon everything there is, a too much dream. Then it breaks down into a sleep dream that follows a format of unfoldment. But the first one is information that is going over the top in terms of how something comes through. In the meditation dream, I am looking at a fish tank. My gaze affects the demeanor of the fish, like the time your gaze at the distant antelope caused them to feel something, notice something. It was like this with the fish. One fish, representing consciousness, jumps out of the tank onto my lap, and I'm concerned about how it will survive. The other jumps off to one side. Can it jump back in? I do not know these things. So I stand and observe and decide they can. We carry an underlying heartfulness that goes through all things. And because we all carry this quality in common, it initially sets off a magnetic connection. This evolves into an overall heartfulness that is tangible. When the fish jumps out, I believe deep down they can go back and forth, even though I do not see it. I want to see it that way, but I do not. It is kind of like the out-breath, and then, can the in-breath function? In the following meditation dream, I am affected by a sense beyond the mind senses of something happening in the overallness, but it is intertwined. Can I catch up with it? To do so, I must listen to the heartfulness that presides wherever one looks in manifestation. We cannot figure out how to move the deck chairs around or contend with anything. Without this heartfelt love for creation, I am merely shifting back and forth with the mind senses. The malingerments leave me in a differentiated state. We are not part of the oneness when we have these malingerments and projections that are afflicting us or keeping us veiled. It is too hard to have the heartfulness when this happens. When a person is simply going around and around in some deviational genre, they become demoralized and cannot break free. They are stuck. This is grief, the opposite of a joyous heartfulness. Demoralization is a state akin to death which we experience when we cannot let go of a subtle, biased mind sense orientation. It is a different octave of things. There are dense orientations, and you can have states of reprieve when you think you've made some tiny step or another, and you get a jolt of insightfulness. But it is still playing within the veils. It is no longer about recognizing what is dense. The discombobulation tends to be more on the in-breath than the out-breath, but both sides are essential. We need joyous heartfulness on both sides of the breath to overcome this. We choke it out if we're too linear or try to figure it out. If we're caught in a subtle deviated differentiation, like religions or tariqas, our mind senses are biased. Subtle orientation gets in the way of joyous, heartfelt fulfillment. In your dream, you started out looking like you were going to stay, but you did not. A person finds their similitudes like an animal by scent. It has been depicted as an isolation chamber. They do not talk or relate. There is no joyful heartfulness. They have some sort of a Mexican standoff, and the best they can come up with is a permissive acceptance. There is no real embracing. We carry the joyous heartfulness, but we get caught in these subtle, deviational mind senses pushing one into bewilderment. Fortunately, in the reflective outer, there is a way to get that memo. The outer is the greater teacher, if you can see it as such, which means there is a heartfulness that is on your side in all things, because we are all things. If we're not able to denote this in the collective consciousness, the joyous heartfulness that permeates through all things is still missing. Whenever we constantly offer guidance, we deny the natural joyous heartfulness because within the guidance is a type of denial. We resort to poetry, stuff we've read and background information that has caused us to take some tiny steps, as if that is all part of what we are. But it is just an outer means to an end we have to drop because we are all inclusive. We're not pointing to something for clarification, because that means we're acting like as if we're not immanent. There is something else that is more ascending or immanent. I am realizing that our Sufi master is going through what I'm going through. At first, you may think you have to learn and catch up with that, but there comes a particular point where he's reaching out, and I am still reaching out. You cannot do this in a vacuum, or as a particular tariqa or religion. You cannot have isolation chambers creating the conundrum. If you show this to others, you get rejected. Well, do you have to be careful and shut that off? You do not. There is a joyous heartfulness that goes through everything. The outer is telling you that you have failed to really break through to where there is no fight to anything. We are all interconnected and intertwined in a oneness. When we apply it everywhere we look, there's nothing but this heartfelt connectedness. Slowly, I started to notice that while all quibblings in the world are aspects of our haywireism, we might want to keep them on another channel because they're not within the realm of our similitude. We think of a tuning fork as something that gets us aligned, but it can work in reverse. Utter rejection is like a tuning fork, showing us that we are deviated. We have to take in the big picture and realize that we have to relate to everything and everyone and find the joyous heartfulness in that. In my first sleep dream, I need to get one last package in a loaded UPS truck. I can't just throw the package in, so I squeeze in holding it. The truck is going into an isolated area. I see out of the corner of my eye that a package has slipped out of a crack or something and is under the cab. The truck kind of bounces over it. The truck driver is intent on doing his job, and while it takes a bit to dawn on him, he suspects maybe it is a package and he finally stops. I get out, and start walking back towards to where the package might be, but I cannot find it. I keep thinking that I am fortunate because there is no traffic in the wee hours of the morning, but I still cannot find it. Had there been traffic, a person might see the package, pick it up, and it would be lost for good. I walk and walk because I'm not exactly sure how far we actually got. Finally, I come to a small village. People are waking up and moving about. I realize I have walked too far and cannot find the package. And the meaning is, what needs to be for communication purposes is a problem. It is an octave off the meditation dreams in that it is not quite congealing. In the next dream, I am walking with others when, out of the blue, I decide to tell a dream story. There are 4 people. 2 of them I've never seen before, and they do not know whether I am talking about something that actually occurred or not. The other 2 walk away or cringe a bit. The 2 guys I have never met before suddenly realize this is a dream and not just a story that I lived the outer. One of them asks, "What does it mean?" I say, "It means I am still out of sync." I notice he's impressed that I can admit that. In the next dream, I agree that given what has happened to me earlier, I will submit to a challenge. The person who's anxious for this game says, "How about now?" I say, "Not right now. We have to go to a program." He says, "Oh, that's right." I say, "We will need to get a ride because neither of us know how to get there." His brother is there. I ask if he's going, and he says, "Yes, if you are." Attention then goes to how to get there. It is a dream of being strewn out, shaking the bush, waking up, trying not to hold out on a particular adamancy any longer. But how do you do that? Because you know something has to be done about it, but you're still in a combobulated bewilderment. In the next dream, a person is a beneficiary to something that doesn't belong to them. I notice myself saying, it is like deeding the property to oneself. In another dream, I am saying to a person, I am waiting for it to come through. At first, I thought it is the you are me idea. I realize it must include us both. That is what makes the world sing and brings it all together, as opposed to what we have right now, which is a greater disorder we may need to somehow create a wake-up call. Although I just do not notice how this works. Everything is complicated and twisted up. Something subtle is going on. The malingerments and deviations are caught in a note or a tune. Everything has a note or a tune to it. The various spiritual paths each carry a tune. We can see the tune and consequently the limitations inside ourselves. This is spiritual illusion, and I associate it as being more on the in-breath. We do not have a means to sort it out. It is as if the soul goes back and forth when the in-breath aspect of the soul goes one way and has to come back on the out-breath. Eventually, somehow or another, we get to one great, big, joyous heartfulness, the true meaning of the principle of love. Until then, it is choppy, this way and that way. The out-breath is a form of deviational death from the essence. The in-breath is an attempt to go back, as if such a thing is possible. We carry something that is stigmatizing in terms of mood or manner. We die in each in-breath, out-breath cycle, which means there's nothing going on but this joyous heartfulness. It is an unusual way of looking at things, but it makes a lot of sense. because there comes a point when we start to notice the deviational differentiation between out-breath and in-breath, especially when we're still in a bewilderment. The feminine experience of God is in a slightly different way than the masculine. It projects one way, and the letting go quality is still a deviational holdout, and it experiences it in another way. It sounds like two gods. Our means of communication and functionality has to be differentiated, divided, like in your dream. You start figuring out how to deal with the similitude, but you're not even able to do that because you had to deal with the Alzheimer's woman, even though it wasn't necessarily true that she had Alzheimer's. In other words, you are sorting it out. You are getting to the point of recognizing the inclusiveness, the joyous heartfulness,